Welcome to Now Daily. I'm Robert Crawford. This episode, I want to talk about politics, just in general, no specific topic. I want to talk about the ideas behind politics and the arguments everyone's having. And I think everyone's very confused. You're either for Bernie or for Trump, or you're just mad at the whole thing, or maybe you're possibly supporting Hillary or the establishment. I want to just take a step back, take a bigger look beyond the election, beyond just the United States, beyond just the idea of government. So I've put together, here's what we're talking about. We're talking about politics in general, real politics. So I put together this graphic to kind of explain the political spectrum, because I think people are very confused. I asked people in conversation, I ask people on the street, you've even seen me interview people and talk about political topics, not just the election, not just the candidates, what's really going on politically. Why? Most people say politics is so boring. Why are you talking about it? And I agree. It's extremely boring, but it has their grasp around every area of our life right now, so we cannot avoid it. That's the problem. And it's tax season. I'm doing my taxes tomorrow because I have to file by the 15th of April, according to some made-up law, basically. So I wanted to take a look at government and just the idea of the political spectrum. So on this graph, you're going to see on the left-hand side, you have collectivism. And on the right-hand side, you have individual freedom. So get out of this paradigm of talking about the left versus right, right? When they say the left versus right, you really have to look at this chart, individual freedom versus collectivism. That's the real left and right. The left and right is not the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. That's the main difference right here. So when we look at the two aspects, we have to break them down and really look at what they mean. So for collectivism, we mean that the state controls all, that the state trumps the individual, that the state will even go to the length to kill the individual if it's not in the state's, the collective's best interest. And generally, what seems to happen is these totalitarian collectivist governments get in charge and they end up only helping the elite while everyone else suffers. That's collectivism. That's the most extreme version that you probably realize is Nazi Germany, where they were national socialists, right? All about Germany, but they believed that everyone should have an equal say. Well, no, they really believed in collectivism, that their entity called the government, it's an entity, that's all it is. It's made up. There's no government tree that grows out of the ground. There's no government monument that wasn't built by individuals working together. It's an entity, it's an idea. And the collectivism idea has proven to be extremely destructive. Right? You can look at a collectivist example right now because the majority of the world is collective. That's why I didn't even put other countries on here, because they're pretty much all collective at this point. China is a communist collective government. They have some limited freedoms. Right? Russia, a little more free than it was, but still pretty collectivist. Venezuela right now is extremely socialist, extremely collective. The government has their hand in everything. They own the businesses. They're printing money to the sky. They think that the government can run everything perfectly, but it never ends up that way. It just never ends up that way. So let's look at the other side of the spectrum, individual freedom. Now, most people would think of this and they would think of the extreme version as anarchy. Right? No government at all. The rule of the individual. People would probably, you envision basically everything going crazy, right? You envision it hard to get food, it being extremely dangerous. All because we believe that government is the fabric that holds society together. Which is complete bullshit. It's complete bullshit. It's individuals being good people, being good friends, being good brothers, mothers, sons, daughters. It's the people that make something great, that make a place great, that make it a place that other people want to aspire to. It's not the government. It's not rules that bound us. It's not a rule that stops me from killing someone. The law doesn't prevent me from doing that. It's because I'm not a douchebag. Or at least to that extent. Some people could say something else. But, I really think the individual is what makes up the country, because it's individuals working together. If we look at other aspects of the world, every other species, no other species has a government, right? Okay, you could say there's a queen in an anthill. Bees have a queen. That's mainly because that's the only insect of their species that can reproduce. So it really goes with the female has the power because they can actually reproduce. And I kind of agree with that. I think everyone's equal though, so it's not really, that's just how nature works. But if you look at like a herd of deer, for example, a herd of deer work in unison together, but not because someone tells them to. Just because they know it's in the individual's best interest, and they do it voluntarily, right? You don't have another deer beating up a deer and telling them what to do. Sure, they may fight over a mate once in a while, but you don't have that same deer then going to all the other deers and beating them up and saying, hey, we're going to go to this watering hole, not the one that you usually go to, and I'm going to beat you up until you go to that one. And then I'm going to beat up everyone else, all the other deer, to go to that one. That doesn't happen. That's what government does. Government threatens us with power, threatens us with breaking down our door with guns, possibly killing us, which happens more than regular. We're talking 11,000 plus murders a year by police officers. Not even talking about how many people the military kills. So the government is doing a lot of damage. And historically, government has been one of the biggest killers of humankind. Just in the last century, over 100 million people were killed directly because government. In China, in Russia, in Germany, in surrounding areas. And many would claim that that's happening right here, right now in America and most other countries. And I believe that's correct. So we need to look at this chart and look at where America sits right now. The U.S. Constitution limited individual freedoms to an extent, but still knew that the individual and giving that individual freedom, the freedom to pursue happiness, the freedom to pursue your dreams, is what was really important. So they put a framework around the collectivist idea. To reel it in, it should be close to the individual freedom. It should protect the individual freedom. Instead, it's become the opposite. And now the United States is much more collectivist than it was ever intended to be. There was never supposed to be an IRS. You were never supposed to file a 1040. Read the Constitution. I have a copy of it right here. Right? Read this. Nowhere in here does it say must file 1040 every year on April 15th. It says the opposite. Go talk to people like Joe Bannister, people that worked at the IRS, and realize that there is no mandatory law to do that. But yet the government continues to enforce it, so they break their own laws, they break their own rules, and then expect us to abide by all of them. And most of us do our best to, but now there's so many rules we don't even know what is out there. We just know that if a cop comes, they can get us for something. So we're fearful. We live in fear constantly. 1/3 of the population now, over 74 million people, are on EBT food stamps in America. Double since Obama took office. Probably double under George Bush, too. So whatever we're doing is not working. Now the problem is those people that get the EBT cards, those Section 8 people, the people that work for the government, is now a third of the population. And if you look at the two major parties, the Democrats are slightly more collectivist than the Republicans, but they're both collectivists. They both believe in big government. They both believe that you should do what they say or they're going to come knocking on their door with their guns. That's what they both believe. So until we change that paradigm, even Trump believes, and you may believe, but I believe that we need to go by the rules of the Constitution. They can't break the rules if we're not allowed to. We need to get back to the individual. Give the individual, the brilliant, aspiring person, the tools, mainly the freedom. Other people will help lift them up. If other people weren't so fearful to protect themselves and protect what little they have, because 1/3 or more of their money is immediately stolen from their paycheck. It's never supposed to be like that. You're supposed to be able to collect your money and spend it as you choose. Now the government can print the money, and if you did the same thing, they would throw you in a box in a jail, or possibly shoot you, or tase you, or break into your home. How is any of this correct? This was never supposed to be like this. So we have to change the entire paradigm. The only political party right now that's even closer to the individual freedom scale would be a libertarian. Libertarian at least believe into the Constitution. They believe the Constitution should be the rule, or there should be a limited government. But we can't have anarchy. And that's kind of what I believe in. I believe in the Constitution. I believe this book, although it wasn't perfect, it at least understood the biggest problems, and that big problem was central banks and debt enslavement. And yeah, they definitely missed the slavery aspect, and it took them a long time to figure that out. And no, it was not perfect, but it was probably going to be better than what we had. The freedom that gave us until 1913, and really until the last 50 years, since World War II, or let's just say the turn of the century, the 20th century, America took a collectivist turn. Before that, it was the freedom that made us great. People would argue, oh, but you have oil tycoons back then, and you had child labor and all these different things. Sure, but people chose to do that. And you may say Standard Oil got too powerful. Well, no, it was the government that allows these corporations to get monopolistic power. Because individual freedom, free markets allow you to choose. You get to vote every second of every day with your money and your time and your manpower. It's only until the government enforces something and forces you to make a choice that may or may not be with your will. Ask yourself, if you believe something, do you have the right to enforce that on another individual? Do you have the right to enforce it on me? The God-given right to enforce it on me? Because if you do, you're a collectivist. If you believe you don't, then how could you delegate a right to cause me to do something by force, or cause anyone to do something by force? How do you have that right as an individual? And if you don't, how can you delegate that to an entity known as government if you don't personally have it to begin with? These are just a few things to think about. But as this upcoming election, you have to realize that both parties are horrible choices. Both continue to expand the government. So what do? I think at least we need to start voting libertarian, possibly, because that's really the only other choice. It's the third one. It's on all 50 states. You need to possibly consider this. You can watch the debates. There is a whole election taking place for the libertarians, but the mainstream media won't show it. They want you to believe that there's a left and right paradigm. And the left and right is only the Republicans and Democrats, but that's not it at all. So just keep this in mind. This has been Now Daily. Let me know what you think. comment below, share this with your friends. Everyone needs to start thinking this way. Start thinking about how can we make our world great? How can we get free energy? I guarantee, like what I believe, if there's any conspiracy theory that I believe, it's that there are free energy devices and that they're being suppressed. The patents are not being allowed. People are even being murdered over this technology in the past 200 years. That there is free energy, that we don't need to be reliant on that. That's a huge leap. That there are so many things that the government purposely are holding from us. Not even the things in the public, like stealing our taxes, payroll, Obamacare, all these different things. I'm saying even behind the scenes, there's so much more. And our world could be so awesome right now. It could be so sweet. We don't have to worry. We wouldn't have to worry about money and stupid things like that. I mean, that's a made up thing too. Think about it. We'll do another episode on that. But this whole idea of government, you need to rethink it and say, is it really necessary? And if it is, what's the most limited we could possibly make it? Because it's you and me and us thinking and working smart and working hard and being enthusiastic and believing in the positivity that's going to make this world a better place. That makes it great right now. It's not some entity that's made up that I write a check to April 15th of every year. This is Now Daily. Go to nowdaily.com to subscribe and learn more.